which of course is usually something that backfires. You just have to be incredibly careful about it. This here is Pocky and Rocky with Becky, the game in the Pocky and Rocky series for the Game Boy Advance. There's something like 7 or 8 or 9, no, maybe not that many, but quite a few games in the Pocky and Rocky series. Don't know how they connect to each other story-wise or anything like that. I don't even know how Becky fits into the story. But again, Pocky and Rocky 2 had a whole bunch of other secondary characters. Maybe Becky was one of them, I don't even remember. I remember like a scarecrow and a big old fat guy and a robot and all sorts of other possible secondary characters in that game, so maybe she was in there? I don't honestly know. Yeah, we'll go with that. And in what way does it sound like the Toho series? It's more that, you know, Pocky and Rocky started out on the arcade, got ported to, like, the NES, TurboGrafx, had a Super Nintendo game in there, this Game Boy Advance game in there. All of them have their own stories. Although I can't speak for the stories of the Japanese versions that were never translated, of course, but, you know. No, it was really only Pocky and Rocky 2 that had multiple secondary characters. Pocky and Rocky have always been the main two characters in the Pocky and Rocky series, not surprisingly. Becky is an addition for this Game Boy Advance game, who, again, she may have been in Pocky and Rocky 2. Don't know 100% for certain. I think she was added on for this, but after I beat this boss, I will actually do a proper information check and find out just how many games there are in this series. I know it's not really too many. And I'm not even sure if there have been any more created since this one. Oh, that's very simple, Zeta. This boss battle is going on because he keeps healing himself. And there, it's finally over with. Okay. Doing a check for Kiki Kaikai. Yeah, we have versions on MSX, Arcade, Famicom Disk System, this one on the Game Boy Advance, 2 on the Super Nintendo, and that appears to be it. I don't really think it needs much of a comparison, it's just the Pocky and Rocky series. If you know the series, it doesn't really need to be compared to much else. It's its own thing. This Pocky and Rocky game is much... Oh, hey. Well, I was expecting it to just be called Chapter 7, but yeah, last chapter. So yeah, that was what I mentioned earlier when I went to look up exactly how many chapters there were, and I was surprised by how few chapters there are in this game. And admittedly, the earlier games in the series aren't exactly epically long themselves, but, you know, they had part chapters, like, you would beat a mini-boss and then go on to Chapter 1, Part 2, or Chapter 1, Part 3, and so on and so forth, so it wasn't many chapters, but it was still a lot of stages, and they were all really quite long. And yeah, what Mouse said is very much true. It is really meant to be Pocky and Rocky equally, not Pocky and her silly sidekick, Rocky. He dropped a sword. Hopefully I can get him to do that again. You know, without taking quite so much damage. And of course, by quite so much I mean 1, but even 1 is unacceptable when taking damage means losing weapon power. Oh, no sword that time. Before we get to the final boss... Oh. Well, apparently that sword power-up, I'm not even sure if it was supposed to be here, but probably would have been good to keep that anyway, but oh well. And wow. Well, I was gonna say I'm assuming this is not the final boss, but given an attack like that, I'm no longer certain. Also, he seems to be changing colors incredibly rapidly. Don't know what that could be a sign of. Oh, holy crap, man. Was not expecting that. I only read how many chapters there are. I didn't actually check on what the boss was for this final chapter. It's now looking like the color changing means that, oh jeez, man, really now. Color changing is indicative of their health. Turning them fully red gets rid of them. So this is nuts. I would absolutely call this a very fitting end battle. And wow, am I glad I have the homing missiles. Well, homing whatevers, I can't really call them missiles, I suppose, but yeah. Okay, so... How? Yeah, let's... Hey, what? Serious? Are you serious? The screen clearing item can only be used in the main area and not on the bosses. So I saved them up all that time for no reason at all. Hitting L and R is not doing anything at this point. Ah. Come on already. This close to done now, we can get the rest of it in without getting damaged. I know it's just random chance, but a good amount of the time they do end up firing nearly impossible to dodge things very close together like that. Yeah, this would be that 8-headed snake creature, wouldn't it? Well, we've fought 7 heads so far. Now presumably here comes the last one, which will actually have the boss health meter going down, finally. Okay. Although really, with the name Giant Snake, no points whatsoever to the Natsume localization crew who came up with Giant Snake for the boss name on this one. You have failed in your job, sir. You have done nothing to represent the actuality of this boss. So it seems that we are not yet reducing the boss's health meter. And doing this entire thing with only 2 hits. Well, I guess this being the Pocky and Rocky, you don't go back to the beginning. You do respawn at that exact spot, so I guess it's not too bad. Ghost version now. Will we have to go through Ghost heads for all 8? Nope, we have boss meter going down, so... final form of the final boss. Here we go. Very nice, blast graphics. It's like rivaling some stuff out of Mega Man there. Oh dear. Okay, that was close. If it had inched even like a half inch over to the side there, that would have definitely gotten me, and I would have saved it into it. And total luck that not a single one of the blue flames there hit me. Wow, I have no idea how that did not hit me. I can't even tell if it is luck or if it's just somehow programmed to not go into certain spots. Oh dear, run away. Probably would only do 1/2 damage, but... I don't know, it seems like that sort of giant beam would be enough to actually kill you in one hit. And now I have to... Oh. Well, curiosity wins out, and it did not kill us in a single hit. Good to know. And the final bit takes forever again. And that would seem to be that. And now we get more story again. Pocky has successfully captured the ghosts. And it does look like Becky is just another shrine maiden. Save now, let's go home. And check that, we don't really get all that much story. I guess our story is, and then they walked home. I'd say this has been pretty fun. Not incredibly challenging. I know there is a more challenging mode. Right there, the code that they give you. To go into the hard mode, but I think we'll say this has been well enough. The hard mode doesn't add any new story, any new bosses, just makes things harder. So yeah. This has been Pocky and Rocky with Becky on the Game Boy Advance. I don't care about that. And apparently that would be it. A little bit underwhelmed, honestly, after the stories presented in the other games, I was expecting quite a lot more out of this one. Maybe there was a lot more in the original Japanese version and it just got snipped for the American version, but who can say? I would honestly recommend the original, or not the original, but the Pocky and Rocky on Super Nintendo over this one. And just because curiosity does demand it, let's start with Becky and see if the story changes. Not in the least, and we are not given any sort of information about who Becky is, or where she came from, how she fits into the story, what she's doing with Pocky and Rocky, any other things like that. So yeah, this has been Pocky and Rocky with Becky. Pretty good, just not great.